when you lack direction, you'll kind of latch on to anything. A lot of the things that they're latching onto are the popular stereotypes. So you ask a lot of young men, what do you want to be? What do you want to do? What did they say? I want to be a rapper. I want to be a ball player, right?
I would say, you know, when I come on here, we always talk about social determinants of health. And so for me, it is what else is happening in their environment that is exacerbating whatever challenge is already there.
What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe Show, the home of Epic Conversations, and I'm the host of Epic Conversations, 2018 Best Podcast News Award winner, 2020 Best... Oh, I got that wrong again today. 2018 Innovation Award winner, 2020 Best Podcast News Award winner, given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. I also co-host and co-produce the only online show on the world for dads and fathers. It's sponsored by Dove Men Plus Care. And since 2020, the team that I'm a part of, we reached out directly and indirectly to over 400,000 dads, fathers, and male caregivers around the world. And that is a blessing. That is a sure blessing. So, few house rules before we get started. Subscribe to the Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube and hit the notification button. We're getting close to 1,600 subscribers. So if you're up to it, would love you to follow the Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube. Also like the Dr. Vibe Show on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. And if you ever would like to advertise your business, product, or service on any of the platforms that I'm a part of, feel free to email me at dr.vibe at the dr.vibeshow.com. So we're broadcasting live on September 4th, and I believe, like, TIFF. Have anyone ever heard of TIFF? If you're watching, put your hand up or put in the comments if you've ever heard of TIFF. If you haven't, it's a Toronto International Film Festival, one of the most recognized film festivals around the world. I remember when I had hair, I was there a few times. I haven't been there since for a little while. The gentleman who is in charge of TIFF these days, Cameron Bailey, is a family friend, and kudos to Cameron and all the team, the great heart work they do when it comes to TIFF. It's such a cultural boost. Basically, I think later on tonight in Toronto, they're closing all the streets down. So TIFF is going to be in full effect, I believe, till September 19th. So that's quite a long period of time for it to be shut down downtown. But hey, one or two TIFF stories. Let me add. Oh, actually, I had a brief meeting many years ago with Will and Jada. Very brief. At that time, they were premiering a movie about Angela Davis. They had done a documentary with a great civil rights activist, Angela Davis. They showed it at the Roy Thompson Hall, and they were coming out walking there. I said, "Hey, Will. Hey, Jada." And they said, "Hey," and they just kept on walking. So, hey, a little bit of thing. And I also had actually had lunch with one of Will Smith's entourage, and that was very, very interesting to find out Will Smith's mindset. But sorry, no Will and Jada tonight, but the people we have on, I like them just as much, if not more, in regards to that. So we have two friends coming on, but before we do that, I'm going to show you a little bit of a trailer of a film that we'd like you to check out during this event. So let me bring it up, and let's go here. Let's go here and take a listen.
በጥቂት ቀናት ውስጥ ይሄን የተረገመ ሰፈር ለቀን እንሄዳለን። ከዛ ሩጭ ዳበላሻለሁ። እሺ
Okay, so short bit, but a powerful bit. But I'm bringing up two people that are involved in this great film called ALAZAR. We're going to be talking with Beza and Tamara. So let's bring them to the stage. What is up, family? How we doing?
Hey, good evening.
Good. How's your day been?
I think it's a busy day, our last day of sort of normal life pre-TIFF.
Normal life. Well, yeah, I think how much normal life do you have in the industry that you're involved in, the film industry?
Beza?
Well, it doesn't sound like too much, but you know what? I'm looking forward to our conversation. I have had a chance to see the film. It's very powerful. But before we go any further, the Dr. Vibe Show family would like to find out a little bit more about each one of you. So in tradition on our platform, we believe in ladies first. So Tamara, could you share a little bit of background about yourself?
Sure. I mean, I'm an Ethiopian-Canadian filmmaker. I primarily produce, sometimes I direct, but really my main focus of the last couple of years has really been working with Ethiopian writer-directors like Beza to make sure that their films get to be exposed outside of Ethiopia, using more of my connections and experience globally to help that Ethiopians are able to export their stories, that we get to learn about the country from the people who live there.
Beza, it's your turn after. You got to follow up. That was strong. I know you can match that though. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I'm also an Ethiopian filmmaker. I'm based in Addis Ababa. I mostly work in documentaries, but this is my first fiction project as a short film. And yeah, I mostly work. I was born and raised in Ethiopia. I live in Addis, and that's where I mostly work at the moment.
Okay, fantastic. Here's the pop question. How did both of you meet?
So we've been thinking about this today. Beza, you mentioned something to me earlier.
Yeah, I think we met like 7 or 8 years ago at this workshop organized by this organization called the International Emerging Film Talent Association in Addis Ababa, I think around 2017. Tamara was also pitching a film at the time that now is, like a beautiful film called Finding Sally. And I was pitching this, a film I'm working on at the moment called The Last Years of the Deceased. And so that's where we met, and we became friends. And then, yeah, we started working not long after that.
But I think I met you before that because I went to the screening of your previous film.
Yeah.
So this is something we're going to have to take.
This is your test ground. So for your future conversations, you'll have it nailed. But you know what? Just be yourself here, and that's all good. For each one of you, where did you get your passion to become filmmakers, content creators? Where did that come from?
I mean, I've always loved movies ever since I was a kid, and so I didn't really know I wanted to make films until I got to college. But I think I somehow also always knew that I wanted to make films. So primarily, it's my love for films that makes me want to make films. And so, yeah, I studied engineering in college, but then I kind of pivoted during the last couple of years of my college years to start making films.
Before tomorrow you go there, that's quite a pivot. So let me ask you, what was your family's response from engineering to filmmaking? I want to hear by your smile, I do want to hear this answer.
I mean, I think they were disappointed at the beginning. At first, especially my mother was kind of disappointed because she didn't know like how people would make a living off of being a filmmaker. I mean, the film industry in Ethiopia is not that well advanced. Like it's not really like the West or other places, and so she was kind of worried at first, but then I think gradually she kind of got used to me being in this industry because I kept showing her like new work, and so she gradually got used to the idea of me making films. But at first, at the beginning, it was difficult conversations because they didn't understand why I wanted to do it.
One more before to bring it over to Tamara. When did you feel your mother started to understand what you were doing? Do you remember that moment?
I think during the film that I made, the one before this one, I made a documentary called Katanga Nation. It's a short doc, and my mother was really instrumental in making that happen, like supporting us when it was being produced. And so after we finished shooting, it took us almost a year to kind of shoot and edit and deliver to audiences. And so finally, when she saw it, is I think when she understood, because she was also involved in the making of the film.
Oh, well, that must. How did you bribe her to do that? That I'd like to know that.
Well, I mean, it's a documentary about the neighborhood I used to live in when I was a kid, and so she was born there. So I wanted to kind of understand her take on things and use her place in the community to explore stories that I wanted to tell in that community. So she was instrumental in making that happen, and through that we kind of started talking about film, and then once we finished shooting and it was edited, I showed it to her, and that's what I think she kind of understood the process of making films. And she's also a writer. I mean, it's not like she was.
Yeah.
She writes herself, so she's not really like that far away from the idea of making films. It's just that, from engineering to filmmaking is a bit of a pivot. So she was worried at the beginning, at least.
Okay, good stuff. I've picked on them enough. So Tamara, I've got to get you in on this. So Tamara, how'd you get involved? How did the journey start?
I actually came out of working in the music industry, working mostly with Canadian hip hop artists. And I think that was really rooted in an interest in storytelling. It's just the storytelling between music and film. It's just a different format. And I think the pivot for film was also really about representation, and realizing that how I'm perceived as an Ethiopian. My background is also Eritrean and Ukrainian, and like what that representation is of those identities in Canada, of the diaspora, weren't present. I wasn't able to find films to watch, to see people that looked like me, to hear and learn about those histories. So it was sort of a challenge to, well, if I don't have those things that I can access, can I start to make them? So it was more of a radical response to not having the content that I wanted to watch, to try to find the people to make the content then instead.
So let me ask, how did you two come together on this project? What's the backstory?
This I remember. I know that Beza reached out to me in 2019 when you were in a lab in South Africa, that this project was being developed and that he needed a producer and could we work together. So that's sort of when we started talking. And the project went through a number of development labs and workshops, some that were for both of us, some that were for just the writer or just the producer. But then things became very slow during COVID, with shutdowns. And that was the point that we also decided, before we do this feature film and, looking at also the size and scale of it, there isn't really much that's happened in terms of the Ethiopian screen sector on that type of scale. So let's first do a short, so that we can also help with Beza's brand, because he's known for doing docs, and prove that he can also do dramatic work. So that's really how we started working together on this larger feature project, pivoted during COVID to focus on this short. And now that the short is out in festivals, we're really focused now on coming back to the feature and getting that going.
Excellent. So high level, because we want people to go see it during TIFF, what is ALAZAR all about?
Well, I mean, ALAZAR is a film about a community, first and foremost, and how a community adapts to really tough circumstances, and how that correlates to the ideas of faith and belief and religion. I mean, and so that's really like the main theme of the film. But the story focuses on a young farmer by the name of Tessema, whose father dies, and a few days after his father is buried, he disappears from his grave, and it's declared a miracle. The local church declares it's a miracle, and so Tessema doesn't believe that explanation for his father's disappearance, and so he starts investigating on his own to get to the bottom of it and figure out what happened to him. It's a mystery, but it's a film really that focuses on what helps us survive as a community, especially the Ethiopian community, and what it means to have faith in that specific context.
Thank you. So before we went live, both of these wonderful, we said, we're really looking forward to hearing what you thought about this and breaking it down. So I'm going to do as much as I can without giving too much about the film, but many different themes. One that first came up is loss of father, and the loss of the father right at the beginning of the film. How important is fatherhood in your culture?
I mean, it's very important, as it is everywhere else. I think fathers are really important for a household, and their presence and their presence in a family, in a home, I think really shapes the faith of their children. It's really essential for fathers to be present in their sons and their daughters' lives. So, of course, like everywhere else in the world, I think in the Ethiopian community also the role of a father is very strong, and it's very important.
Okay. Tamara, you can chime in if you want. Then I guess I'll leave that. I'll go there. I may not be the right thing, but are there many families that are fatherless families in your culture and community?
I mean, I think in certain communities, yes, in the cities mostly, but I think for the most part, there's a really strong sensibility of like having a family in Ethiopia, and so I think most families are intact. But in the cities, of course, there are some signs of some signs of a father's absence in some certain communities. But for the most part, I would say it's not really like a huge thing in Ethiopia.
Okay. The religious overtones about resurrection. How did that come about in the film? I found that was very interesting, and I guess that's part one. I have a part two to ask about it, but the whole area of resurrection, how did that become encompassed in the film?
Well, I mean, I think the feature film I was working with Tamara also had the central theme of the resurrection, and so it's a continuation of that theme in the short film. But for me, I find it very fascinating, this idea of somebody returning from death and coming back to life, because I'm always curious to see like how a community or a family or a people would react to something like that, because what is the most definitive thing on earth is it's death. Like it's one of the most common, I would say it's the most common thing in the world is death. And so somebody coming back to life is there's no other word for it except miraculous, so when a miracle happens in a community, how does it affect the people inside that community? How do they view it? in what way do they take it? What does it symbolize? All of these questions are interesting to me because Ethiopia is a very highly religious society, and people's everyday lives are interpreted through always a religious lens. And so I was always curious to find out what people would think about a highly religious like idea such as like a resurrection. And so that's where the film started. But I also wanted to explore the idea of like something like, for example, a drought happening in a community, and how that would correlate to people's beliefs, and when it starts to contradict each other, what the end result might be with regards to people's faith. All of these things are really like explored in this film, I would say.
Also, in regards to that, let's say the differences of opinion between the mother and the sons when it comes to religion, I found that really fascinating, and I think it's a common thing. But for me, this film was educational. I had a chance to get exposed to a culture I didn't know much about. I know a little bit, but it just, is that also another feature of your culture, that the old guard saying believe, the younger say no? Is that something that is somewhat common in the culture?
I would say so. I think increasingly due to like globalization and us being exposed to the outside world, I think has had an impact on the way people see religion and faith. And Ethiopia, as I said, like a highly religious society. Like there's a lot of Muslims, there's a lot of Christians, there's a lot of religions in between. And so like 95, 96, like more than that number of people are highly religious in the country. So it has always been a big part of our identity. Mm-hmm. And so as we entered the modern times and we started being exposed to different ideas, and I think the younger generation is like everywhere else is starting to ask questions for themselves. Sometimes those questions can be answered and sometimes they're not. So it really dictates your path afterwards. And so I would say the mother is quite accurate in terms of what Ethiopian mothers are like, in my experience at least. Mm-hmm. And so the film tries to really like balance all the viewpoints present in the country, because I see all sorts of people now, and I wanted to really like represent them and represent the way they see the world in that film through those characters.
Okay, I'll lay off the film for a little bit. I'll want to get some, because I've probably given away too much, so I'm going to turn it down. But how long? And I always love when a dream becomes a reality. But a lot of times people don't realize they're only seeing the end product. They don't see what goes on behind. So just for our family here, how long was it from the initial idea to where we are today?
Maybe about 2 years. I mean, I think with creating films, whether they're short or feature length or TV series, the thing that's always slow is finding the money. That's the thing where you just don't know when those things are going to come together. And I think also the writing, you can't just write something and then rush out the next day and shoot it. And I think that Beza spends a lot of time very like carefully thinking about all these things and reworking and tweaking. And that's also an important part of the process to give enough space for as well.
Okay. And the actual shoot itself, was it difficult getting performers? How long did it take? Were there any challenges along the way when you actually started to film?
I mean, I think all shoots are challenging. Shooting in Ethiopia is never simple. I mean, if you're shooting something here in Toronto, there's much more infrastructure. Toronto's a huge production hub. In Ethiopia, doesn't have all of those tools and inputs and skills. but it's, I think, important for this film that we were able to shoot there and shoot in the communities where the story is set. I don't know, Beza, if you want to talk about the actors.
No, I mean, I think the casting was probably one of the easiest parts of making this film. We did a lot of auditions, and we looked at a lot of people, and there's no shortage of talent back home in Addis. So it's I wouldn't say that's the hardest part. I think the most challenging part of making the film was the actual production, and because, like Tamara said, there's a big gap in infrastructure in Ethiopia with regards to equipment, personnel, and technicians, and a lot of different roles. And so it was really like challenging filling those gaps and figuring out a way to make this film. But it's never easy making films, so we roll along with it and we figure out a way to make it happen always.
Beza, how much of your story is in this film?
I mean, I would say a lot, because I grew up an Orthodox Christian, so my whole family is Christians, and so I've always asked these questions, the same questions that Tessema raises in the film, have always been in my mind, and so I wanted to really make a film that asks those questions for me. And even though I wouldn't be able to get the answers, I would, in the process of making the film, figure out a way to meditate on them and to see what the possibilities are. And it's also a way of showing a community of people I think are not that very well represented on the world stage, and everything, like the contradictions, the characters, the ideas explored in the film are really my community's story. So it's my story, but I would say largely it's a community's story in the film.
In the film, you do show the community. What should someone who's going to this film know about your culture, your community, that we don't know, or we may have misconceptions of? Because I got some learning about your community there, about gathering together, celebration, religion. What do we need to know? Because I think this is all, for me, it's also an educational piece of work, not just a story. What areas or what educational value do you want the audience to get from this film?
I honestly, I don't want to educate anybody on anything.
Okay, no problem.
I think that's my role. I would want audiences to go into it, one, to enjoy it, and to see those questions asked and to come up with their own conclusions depending on how they believe. And the film is made to really accommodate all types of viewpoints. And so for me, it's more important that people go into it with an open mind and come to their own conclusions.
Problem. Tamara?
I mean, I think there's, on two hands, sort of to Beza's point, of people coming to their own conclusions. One of the things I love about this film is that there's this diversity of opinion in the film, and that we've also seen so far from audiences. And I like films that start a conversation, that are not trying to spoon feed you medicine with sugar so that you leave being like, this is the thing. So I'm happy about that this is going to get people talking about what do we believe, why. But I also, for me, in making films like this, I hope that it gives people, especially here in Canada, more of a wider lens into Ethiopians, Ethiopian characters. I mean, often all we see on the news here for the last, 30, 40 years longer is drought, war, which are also things that are occurring. And, there is the background in ALAZAR, the community is experiencing climate change, but it's not a film that's only about that. And there's much more complexity and richness to the people in the country and their stories and those things that are going on. So for me, I think I see sometimes these films as the challenge to these, TV commercials we see here that say, like, give $1 a day for this poor person that's waiting for something to come down and help them. And I think that those are not the people I see when I go in Ethiopia. And this is an opportunity to see the real people.
Yeah, I 100% to both you on that. 100%. I agree. This is, and while you both were sharing, a lot of the conflict in this film is same conflict we have in many areas here in Toronto, in Canada, around the world. So it just shows that, yeah, we have this too, just like you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're one of us, same sort of thing. It's a global perspective. It's not just a Toronto perspective, but it's there too, and just respecting the culture. And two last conversation pieces. What is the meaning of the main character's first name? Is there a meaning of Tessema? Is there any meaning of that name?
Well, I mean, Tessema literally means he was heard, like somebody heard him. And so when I was writing it, I didn't plan on the character's name, to be honest. He just happened to be named that. But
okay,
the film was finished, and now that you asked that question, it makes sense to me because of certain things that happen in the film that you've seen.
Yeah.
That it makes sense. We have a saying in Ethiopia called that says "Malakin sem yawatal," which means you're named, or an angel names you. So I think somebody named Tessema, not me.
Okay. And one last conversation piece. What's next for the film? I know you've got TIFF. What's on board after TIFF?
Well, we don't know yet. We're starting to get offers coming in for the fall. I mean, the big thing, with the film is to sort of choose key anchor festivals in different parts of the world. We were very lucky to premiere earlier this year in the Cannes Film Festival.
Whoa! No, hold on. Let's hear about this. You guys can't. Oh, we're just at Cannes. Come on now. How did that go? Come on now.
I think that's wonderful. That's one of the biggest festivals in the world. I'll let Beza speak to his experience, but I mean, for me now coming to TIFF is as much like it's home for me, right. And it's important to be seen here. And it's also, TIFF is much more audience focused. Cannes is, industry, a lot of French people, not a lot of people of color, not a lot of Black people in the room. Maybe it was only us. I don't remember. So I'm actually more excited about this because this means that there's people that we know, community, other Ethiopians in the audience able to watch and receive the film. So that's what's making me excited for the next couple of days.
Wonderful. Beza, how was your Cannes experience?
It was great. I think, we really had a blast, in May there with Tamara and some members of our crew. And so it was really wonderful to connect with audiences because it was also the first time the film was showcased anywhere in the world. So it was kind of special to have it there with all the people involved. And it was really nerve-wracking because the festival is really famous, and most of my favorite films have been screened at Cannes. So it's a dream come true, but it was also really it had so much pressure. But now that it's passed, I look back at it and see it's just a wonderful experience and opportunity to screen our film there.
Can I get one more thing in? I totally wanted to get one more. One more is allowed. I want each one of you to share your experience, what did you feel the first time you saw the finished product?
I think you should go first.
I mean, I think it was different for me because I wasn't there in person during post-production. So I was watching cuts on my laptop or, at home on my television, which is not at all the same. You don't hear things in the same way. And you're like, I think this looks good, but it's seeing it finally on the big screen. And I think to Beza's point, being there with a lot of the rest of the crew and being able to watch that together and listen to the reactions from the audience in the room, those are the things, like, as a producer, it's like the final exhale. Like, now we've gotten here and the thing is ready and people are watching it.
Good stuff. Okay, she set you up, Beza. You got to come good. She set you up good.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like during the edit and during the post-production, I have seen the film so many times that by the time it kind of reached audiences, I don't even want to watch it again,
Okay.
because you watch it so many times.
Yeah, I get you.
But it was really wonderful to see it on the big screen with like Tamara said, with the rest of the crew. But I'm always like when I look at past work, I'm always feeling like, oh, I could have done this better and I could have done this better, and so there's also those thoughts going on. But for the most part, I'm happy with how the film turned out and how audiences are responding to it so far.
Cool. Has Mom seen it?
Yeah, she has seen it.
Well, I can't leave out your mom now. What did Mom have to say?
No, she really liked it. I was actually worried because my mom is also one of the most religious people I know, and so
wow,
I really know like how she would take it.
Yeah.
But I think she really rolled with it and understood what I was trying to say. So that was great.
Well, look, thank you for giving some of our family time today, because I know it's going to get crazy for the next few days, but I really appreciate both you taking the time. Do you have any final messages you have for our family here?
Well, I mean, I hope people can come out and see the film at TIFF. It's playing on September the 10th and September the 14th. And otherwise, thank you so much for chatting with us.
Oh, my pleasure. And like a good person, she read my alleged mind, said, yes, I have it ready to go. So yes, it is playing on September 10th at the Scotiabank Theater at 6:45, and then September 14th at 8:45. I should be Scotiabank. I must be thinking music. Scotia in regard to that. But yeah, thank you so much for both of you. Looking forward to more great productions. Please stay in touch. If there's anything we can do to help the production, please feel free. So as always, I just say to both of you, don't just manage your time, manage your energy, and remember to give yourselves grace. Be well.
Thank you.
Have a great night. All right, family. Yeah, great film. You know what? I'm so on myself. I want to change that to put on the screen correctly. So let me do it properly. Scotiabank, not Scotiabank. Tamara influenced me with all the music. I was going to blame her, not my no. So there you go. You can check it out September 10th, Scotiabank Theater in Toronto, and September 14th, same place, Scotiabank Theater in Toronto. Go to tiff.net for all the information. So that's it. That's all. So as always, want to thank everyone for taking the most important thing, your time to watch or listen to the epic conversation. As always, please subscribe to the Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube and hit the notification button. Also, follow the Dr. Vibe Show on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. Also, to advertise your business, product, or service on any of the platforms I'm a part of, feel free to email me, dr.vibe at the drvibeshow.com, and you can watch replays of this epic conversation at the Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn, and my website, the drvibeshow.com. So as always, this is how we close off. Live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Sometimes you have to get small to get stronger. Block assumptions, then aim bigger, aim better, aim higher, aim wider. Love, faith, and respect. And don't just manage your time, manage your energy. And remember to give yourselves grace. God bless, peace be well, keep the faith, and walk good.
Yeah.